So perhaps you're asking, how does one avoid self-sabotaging behavior in the context of a relationship? Or what is the role of positive psychology? Or what is the role of positive psychology in shifting relationships for the better? How can healthy boundaries contribute to the improvement of relationships? Or how can individuals avoid being overly clingy in their relationships? And what shift is needed to contribute to a healthy relationship dynamics? So, if you want to find out what the answers are to these or your own unique questions about relationships, then please stay tuned because we are going to go into depth about that in this live stream. Okay, I would like to welcome Emmanuel in the studio with me.
Hello, Linda.
Hello, welcome. And our topic for today is why your relationship with yourself sets a tone for your entire life. So, this is going to be a very interesting topic to talk about, Emmanuel, and we're very excited to hear what you have to share with us today. So, would you like to set the scene or jump in?
Linda, I'd like to set the scene like this, and then let's start at the agenda, but let me just set the scene like this.
Okay.
As we were preparing for this particular live stream, for this discussion, I concluded that it could easily take 4 hours. So I'm going to have to move a little bit faster, and I'm going to request that you indicate to me, Emmanuel, move, Emmanuel, move, Emmanuel, move, because we certainly don't want to take 4 hours. It wouldn't surprise me if this is longer than what we've done up to now, as opposed to me just rushing through it, which is something that I definitely don't want to do and would not be able to do. So it's going to be a slow building the case, step by step by step. And um, I would like to just add, I started writing a book about relationships, focusing purely on relationships and what I encountered. And as I was writing the last chapter, I was into the last chapter when I realized, whoa, 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 whoa. Relationships, the principle of relationships is much, much bigger and simpler than what I had thought. So I scrapped everything I had written.
Sure.
So
Okay.
that's setting the scene. It's going to be an interesting and tricky topic, and it's also not going to be trivial because of how we're going to turn things upside down, back to front, inside out.
Looking forward.
Okay, Linda, so there we are. So the very first step that we are going to do is look at why our relationships don't work, and also, is a shift necessary in your relationships, and how to shift when it comes to your relationships, and how easy is the shift regarding your relationships, and then is the shift in your relationship sustainable? Now, the short answer is no, it's not. While we are treating the symptom, if you want to treat the symptom, it's not. It's not sustainable. If you are willing to address the root cause, and you would only need to address that once, then the shift in your relationships is definitely sustainable. Then we are going to look at Peace Evolution's recipe, and that is the start of how we're turning things upside down, inside out, etc. And then how do you recognize your purpose? So once we understand our purpose, once we recognize and understand it, um, it does not turn our life inside out, upside down, back to front. It sets the tone for our life. The relationship with ourself, as it says there, why your relationship with yourself sets the tone for your entire life. So if the relationship with me, my relationship with me is not healthy, I could not have a relationship with anybody else, not with my family, not in an intimate way, not with money, not with health, etc. And we're covering all those topics today. And in our research for what people are asking for in terms of relationships, point number 2 on the screen on the agenda, and point number 3 and point number 4 were inspired by what people search for. So that is the agenda for today, and you are going to have to drink a lot of patience tablets, and it's going to move at a tempo to cover the understanding of most of us. In some cases, the tempo might be too fast, and in some cases, the tempo might be too slow. The crux of the matter is by enduring all the way to point number 7, you are going to get a bigger picture of what is behind relationships. Thank you, Linda. So thank you, Linda. So I'm going to just start straight away. And I'm starting at that first point, why our relationships don't work. This is a step by step, and this is where we're going to start. So let's look at the very first thing that we are going to be looking at. Our relationships are mostly a struggle. Now, I'm just going to touch briefly on that. Our relationships, very simply, is a struggle mostly. The reason behind that is our relationship with ourselves is not settled. We don't have a healthy relationship with ourselves. We made a video in this regard not so long ago, where we spoke about how we perpetuate our feeling of being unworthy. So it starts with that. We perpetuate in our everyday, with our every breath that we take, how we perpetuate the belief that we are unworthy. And we could replace that unworthy with not good enough, a failure. We could replace that with I'm a nobody, there's no space for me. So how we perpetuate the belief that we are unworthy is where it all starts. And until we resolve that, our relationship with ourselves is unhealthy. and consequently, our relationships are mostly, as we say there, a struggle. The other thing people also ask about, as you see there, why do our relationships change after the honeymoon phase? Please look at this. When we say our relationships change after the honeymoon phase, this is our relationship with a partner, an intimate partner, with a friend, with buying a car, with buying a house. Those are all relationships. Now, once the novelty wears off, and in intimate relationships, we refer to the honeymoon phase, then suddenly things start falling apart. And they start falling apart. And it's simple. The reason why we go into a relationship is what we need to look at, not the relationship itself. And then the other point that people are asking about, is there a holistic reasoning behind our relationships? That is a mouthful. Is there holistic reasoning about behind our relationships? If we look at that one, we are aware of what we want. Are we aware from what we want from relationships? You might have, and let's talk about intimate relationships, you might have been in N number by now, but do you ever think of what you want out of that relationship? That is where it starts. And if we don't know what we want from relationships, it's not going to be able to work. It just cannot work. If we look at the next point there, and that is, would relationships ever give us exactly what we want? Would a relationship give you exactly what you want? If we look at our relationship with a partner, intimate relationship, with buying a car, with a job, would it ever give you what you want? The relationship with our health, would it ever give you what you want? And then, do you compromise in a relationship? So let's have a look at a intimate relationship. We speak of compromising. Is it necessary to compromise? Do we need to compromise for the relationship to work? Now, these are all questions right down the chain. These are all questions right down the chain. So right here we're saying, oh, should we compromise? Should we compromise? Should we compromise? But what about all the questions above that? Is our relationship with ourselves healthy? And if our relationship with ourselves is healthy, compromising in a relationship does not exist. Nothing like that exists. However, because of the steps that are ahead of that, the questions and the reasoning ahead of that is not healthy, we then actually also need to compromise in a relationship, and that does not exist. Do you compromise in a relationship? That is a critical one. I think a lot of that goes on. Let's go to the next one. Do you unconditionally accept what your relationships bring? So I want to get this back to a relationship with family, a relationship with a friend, with a job, with your vehicle, with your finances, with your health, with your intimate relationships. Do you unconditionally accept what your relationships bring? Do you yearn for a different life? So now we touched on a few points. Now we are going to shift from that to a preview of what you want to be telling yourself. Now, if we look at that one, do you yearn for a different life? So let's forget about for a moment about relationships. Do you yearn for a different life? I'm coming back to relationships. Does something feel missing? Is your life unique to you as your fingerprint? Are you living your uniqueness? Creating the perfect balance between your relationship and the relationship, your relationships and the relationship with yourself. So let's look at that one slowly. You have relationships. We all have relationships, be it the different things that I mentioned. And do you have the perfect balance between those relationships and yourself? And we have another one there. The relationship with yourself sets the tone in every aspect and every relationship, every aspect and every relationship. And as we show there, with yourself, A, with yourself, B, with everyone, and C, with everything. Everything meaning the environment. Is that the case? Now, once you've looked at this, you're going to also evolve inner peace. So we started with relationships. We spoke about several things about relationships. We spoke about where the relationship starts, what is the importance of a relationship, and then when we tick all those boxes, or we look at each one of those, the next thing is then we evolve inner peace. Now you might ask, what my relationship, an intimate relationship, what has that got to do? Something feels missing. Aha! If you ask that, or the intimate relationship, and you're yearning for a different life, aha! What does that mean? What is that connection? Briefly, let me just briefly touch on that. We go into relationships, and you hear people say, "Oh, you complete me." We also hear people say, "Oh, this car completes me. Oh, this house completes me." The point is, something feels missing in our life, and that is something from internal that we are able to connect to. And because that is not connected yet, we yearn for a different life, something feels missing, etc. We're not living our uniqueness. Then, when we come to the relationships, we want from the relationships that it completes me. And something external to us is not able to complete us. Something external to us is not able to make that connection between the something is missing and yearning for a different life. Yet, how our society and standards and norms are geared and rigged and threaded, we think that, and there are many, many books telling you how to be like this, how to be like that, how to be like this, how to be like that, for that to then fill that something is missing void, that yearning for a different life void. Not possible until we address the root cause, which is our relationship with ourselves. Now, let me just bring that back on the screen. What we say there, why your relationship with your life, your relationship with yourself sets the tone for your entire life. Until that is answered, evolving inner peace is missing. And all the things we are talking about here today, relationships, meaning intimate relationships, meaning with things, meaning with ourselves, is not yet addressed. And as a result, we yearn for a different life. Something feels missing. Linda, that brings me to the end of this section.
Thank you, Emmanuel. You said quite a few profound things in setting the scene for us. Um, the two things that really stood out for me, and I think a lot of people go into a relationship looking for something in their partner, like you said, to complete them. And how many times do we actually ask ourselves, do we know what we are looking for? Or do we even think that we will get what we want? And so this very interesting dynamic comes in where you spoke about conditional and unconditional. That really stood out for me. So it comes down to, at the end of the day, like you said, is you first need to look at yourself before you actually look at the relationship.
Yeah, yeah. Well said,
Okay.
Linda. Thank you, Linda.
So we're going to unpack that a little bit further now.
Yes, 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 yes. So now we're going to look at what people are actually talking about. So let's have a look. We covered now why our relationships don't work. Very clearly specified. It's clear in my mind that because of wanting something from a relationship, which is not possible, it's absolutely not possible, um, why our relationships don't work. And that is not only intimate relationships. Now we're going to look at, is a shift necessary in your relationships? Now we say relationships, it's about with other people, it's about with ourselves, it's about with money, our health, etc. So let's look at this one. Is a shift necessary in your relationships? Let's have a look. And these are based on research that we did. Um, and the research revealed the following. Let's have a look. I've got many points of what the research revealed. A guide to being your higher self. So, in our research, people are looking at a guide to being your higher self. Now, we made a video of that, not exactly those words, but we made a video of that where it says, you are the source of your life. So there is a video we made. You are the source of your life. Nobody and nothing else is the source of your life. You are the source of your life. We also made another video where we say you need nothing first to be yourself. And there we are. Magically, it appears. You need nothing first to be yourself. Now, I also heard many times already, but we don't have a manual how to be ourselves. We don't have a manual how to be a human being. And everybody is attempting to write that manual, to come with different angles for that manual. Everything that you've written, that you've read so far, or that you've attempted so far as a guide to solve your relationships, everything. This is a blanket statement we make. We say 99 to 100% of everything that exists in humanity at this time is treating the symptom. And if you are willing to address the root cause, then this video that you are watching now is able to show you the root cause, and then we say a guide to being yourself, your higher self. You are going to recognize and befriend your higher self. And the guide is only needed once, and that is to open your heart to yourself. And as you open your heart to yourself, you suddenly see, oh, but I've got everything. Therefore, we say you need nothing first to be yourself. We also say you are the source of your life. Now, how to get that, past that, is the video we made about how we perpetuate the feeling of unworthiness. Or as I said, we could replace the unworthiness with being a feeling of failure, not wanting to be a failure, not good enough, all those things. And let us go on now to the next point that we hear people ask about, and that is personal development. I'm making another statement here. There is nothing like personal development. It's not a gradual thing, it's an absolute thing. As we perpetuate the feeling of being unworthy, we are merely treating the symptom. We are continuously, then we are on this path, then we are on this path, then we are on this path, and then certain other things come into fashion, certain other things trend, and we all run to those things. And it's a harsh statement that we make here. 99 to 100% of people treat symptoms. The idea is there's nothing like personal development. All you need to do is once recognize how you perpetuate the feeling of unworthiness, address it once, and your life shifts into that your life is all about your own creation, your own vision. And we get to that a little bit further on. We make harsh statements here. If we look at that one, enhancing intimacy. Now, look at this. How am I able to enhance intimacy if I'm not intimate with myself? And in this case, I don't mean it in any other way than understanding myself intimately. If I don't understand myself intimately, how am I able to understand anyone else intimately? How? Not possible. Emotional abuse. I was once contacted by a person who desperately wanted to get to know herself. And it felt to me like this person needed to make contact with me in a way that her partner would not be aware of this. And you see this in movies, and you see this in books, and you see this on television shows, where the person is captive to their partner. And of course, there's a lot of emotional abuse going on there. And although she could hear that what we offer was something that she wanted, she was not able to break out of that abusive relationship, that emotional abuse that went on at home. And of course, the crux of that matter is perpetuating the feeling of unworthiness or not good enough. Or, for instance, maybe in that person's case, that she felt that rather have an abusive relationship where the person you're in the relationship with maybe fends the bill, pays the bill for you. You have a roof over your head, etc. Feeling not able to do that for yourself. So rather suffer the emotional abuse than stand up and bring your life to yourself. Let's look at this one. How to not be insecure in a relationship. I think we need to just have a look at that video again. I keep on referring to it. How we perpetuate. So if we are not secure in our relationship with ourselves, are we able to be secure in a relationship with anybody else? Let's look at the new point there. How to stop being needy. When Linda announced what we were talking about, she mentioned something similar about being needy. Of course, in the abusive relationship example that I gave, that person was likely needy and therefore could not see herself as being able to make the decision to stop, to get out. Now, you also see other movies and real life stories where the relationship is so bad that the person wants to get out. And the person who, let's say, owns the person that wants to get out is of such a nature that even though the person has the courage to go, it's not possible. And there are some interesting stories about how those people then do several things, like an example, to train to be able to defend themselves physically. Maybe to go into sneak out, get away, go into a life, create a new identity. All of that is necessary sometimes, but the person needs to stand up and say no more. Once the intent is there and you stand up and you say more, is when you would be stop being needy. If we look at this next one about self-sabotaging, do we self-sabotage in relationships? We have relationships and we do not understand how everything that we do could somehow self-sabotage. Like, I want to go, I want to break this off, I want to change things, but I don't have security within myself to change it, and consequently self-sabotaging the relationship. Walk away from a relationship. So is it easy to walk away from a relationship? No, it's not. It's very difficult to walk away from a relationship. In some cases, it's necessary to walk away from a relationship, notwithstanding that we probably went into the relationship not from a point of the relationship with ourselves is healthy. And in this case, now walk away, being there, not conducive at all. However, and then people go into a relationship again, and lo and behold, it's more or less the same pattern, and go into another relationship, and lo and behold, it's the same pattern. And I'm talking about jobs, I'm talking about intimate relationships, all of these, it applies. So it does not help to continue going into relationships until you address why you need a relationship. Let's look at this one. Strengthening relationships. Now, I could say, wait a minute, let me pamper my partner, and let me submit to the things that I understand my partner wants from me. And in that way, I strengthen the relationship. I could compromise in the relationship. I could do all these things in the relationship. Now, I am then giving to get. My partner wanting that from me is now wanting to get. Whereas a healthy relationship needs no strengthening. A healthy relationship is strong in its own right. Why am I in that relationship? To share my life with somebody, to give unconditionally of myself, because if I am okay within myself, I can't other than give of myself, whatever that means. And we each know what that means for ourselves. We are just there to bring our meaning to whatever we guys in our relationship with our job, in our relationship in an intimate relationship. So strengthening the relationship ultimately is back to, do we know who we are ourselves? Let's look at the next, how to stand out. So I want to stand out, and let's speculate. Why do I want to stand out? Is that I attract somebody to me? Why would I want to do that? Is my relationship with myself healthy enough that I don't feel I need to stand out? In other words, doing something, let's perpetuate feelings that we have if we're not in a relationship. These are tough questions and tough points that we are bringing here this morning, or this afternoon, or this evening, wherever you are. Let's look at scarcity. Let's talk of our relationship with money, or our relationship with anything where we need certain things. Now, there is a notion that based on my mindset, I would have or I would not have. And in principle, let us talk about money. Do I need any money more than just to pay the bills, more than just monthly to be able to be self-sustaining while I live a life of liking what I do? So why do I need the scarcity mindset? Why do we have the scarcity mindset? And we think we don't have because of the scarcity mindset. Yes, let me make this point clear. Depending on what goes on in our mind, we might have or we might not have. And yes, there is something like a scarcity mindset, because everything starts with our frame of reference, not our frame of reference, our mindset. And if that mindset says, I don't deserve this, you are not going to have. Now, if we look at how we perpetuate the feeling of unworthiness, we could replace the word unworthiness with, I don't deserve this. And as a result, by following the peace evolution recipe, which I mentioned right in the beginning, that also impacts the scarcity mindset, because then we go beyond, we transition beyond the scarcity mindset. And by the way, all the things we're discussing now, we transition beyond that. Look at this one. Relationships, no, situationships. Situationships. And what it says there, a romantic or sexual relationship that is not considered to be formal or established. And of course, there are relationships like that where, and it's sometimes called friends with benefits. The fact of the matter is, we are in a relationship or in a situationship with somebody, and we happen to get along in a certain way up to a certain point. And as a result of that, we have a relationship, but without, let's call it just briefly, without commitment. And we have some benefits. Now, we got to also ask ourselves, would we rather want that or a relationship full on? Let's look at the next one. Self-compassion. Now, what I've been saying here is, if our relationship with ourselves is not healthy, of course, we would not understand self-compassion. We would need to read it in a book. Now, the moment we set our relationship on a healthy path, which we only need to do once, just once, it also solves self-compassion. The very first thing is we would recognize ourselves, and the self-compassion is born to its fullest extent. Let's look at this one, wellness for life. Again, the same thing. Once we let go of how we perpetuate our feeling of unworthiness and all the other words I mentioned there, once we let go of that, and it's just a once-off thing, automatically wellness for life kicks in. Relationship growth. Is there anything from what I just said so far like relationship growth? It's not a thing that grows, it's absolute. In the sense, I live a second choice life, and we have in that video I've been mentioning several times now, perpetuate our feeling of unworthiness. There we are. How we perpetuate the belief that we are unworthy. From there, it's one single shift to a first choice life, which addresses all these points. And so, with one decision, we could have relationship growth in all aspects with ourselves and everything in 1 second from zero to maximum. Let me give an example. I'm a race car driver. Pretend I'm a race car driver. Pretend you are able to cast this into anything else that you are fascinated by. Let's say I'm a race car driver and I'm learning to brake exactly in time. I could brake too soon, and therefore I slow myself down. I can brake too late when it comes to a corner or to other cars, and of course I could slow myself down. But knowing to brake exactly at the right time, once I get that, braking is solved forever. In my case, Braking then as a race car driver is solved forever. The same applies here. Setting my relationship with myself, once I fix that, just once, like the braking, it's absolute. So there's nothing like relationship growth. It either is or it isn't. It's absolute. It's not building on a case. Look at this one. How to have better relationship with friends. How to have better relationships with friends. Exactly the same. If my relationship with myself is healthy, it would be healthy with my friends. When we go to the next one, we see how to be in a successful relationship. If our relationship with ourselves is successful, it would automatically be with everything and everyone. What is a healthy relationship? A healthy relationship is where you tap into your own source. And you just need to do that once, like the example of the race car driver. And once you've tapped into it, and once you heal your own relationship with yourself, all relationships after that are healthy. This is not something that we could, let's say, address my relationship with money. Let's say my relationship with uh, my colleagues at work. Oh, my relationship with my family. Those are plasters we stick onto the symptom. We are able to address it in one fell swoop. Let's look at this one, personal growth. It's absolute. Either we have a slowly treating of symptoms, various symptoms, continuously addressing symptoms, and it appears as if we are growing, versus who is measuring that growth. On the other hand, it's absolute. I make the decision, I step into my first choice life. Let's look at this one. All the attachment styles. We've got more on attachments coming up. Look at that one. Let me read it from as it starts. Dismissive avoidance attachment. A term for when someone tries to avoid emotional connection, attachment, and closeness to other people. Once you are living your own life and you are basing that on your relationship with yourself, that's fine and healthy. Maybe you don't even want to associate with that particular person. Not through any fault of yours or theirs. You just have different things that you do with your life. Let's look at this one. Advice on relationship problems. So you could read this book, you could go to that psychologist, you could do this particular therapy. All of that, as I said earlier, we say that 99 to 100% of what happens around us is treating the symptom. Fix your relationship with yourself, which you only need to do once, and it solves all relationships. Look at this one. Why is dating such a challenge? Why is dating so challenging? Interesting. Is there a different answer? It's the very same answer. So this was a lengthy part of the presentation. Notwithstanding, we got to the end of this, and Linda is telling me I need to move faster. I'm going to put my foot on the race car pedal to go faster, Linda. Okay, back to you. Linda, your volume.
Emmanuel, this is such a juicy topic, and I don't actually want to rush you. But yes, we've got so much other things to cover. There are just quickly two things I want to mention to the viewers again. And that is, so what we are saying is that when it comes to relationships, whether we are needy or clingy or we are feeling insecure, or we want to self sabotage, or we want more out of the relationship, or we want to change our partner, or whatever the reason is, are we able to recognize and see that 99 to 100% of people actually we are treating symptoms and not addressing the root cause? So this is definitely something that Emmanuel mentioned that really, really stood out for me. And then, Emmanuel, I quickly wanted to ask you a question.
Yes, please ask.
Okay. So I'm sure our viewers are burning with lots of questions as well. But one that I want to maybe ask on their behalf is we spoke about compromise. So when you're in a relationship with someone, there's two very different people, two very unique people coming into a relationship. And each person has their own way of doing things. Each person like certain things where another doesn't. And so this thing has been birthed, I guess, out of that when it comes to compromise. So now let's go and look at an example like, let's say, parenting. We've got a newborn baby, and surely between the two partners, there's got to be compromise of, who's going to wake up in the middle of the night to go and feed the baby or, you know, make it settle down. Um, so I'm just using that as an example. Aren't we compromising there? And isn't that showing that we care for the other person?
Linda. Okay, so first of all, let me just start out by saying there is nothing that exists that is a compromise. It doesn't exist. It's something that we conjure up in terms of needing the acceptance of the other person. So, very simply said, whatever the case might be, however we might color it in, we need the acceptance of the other person, so we compromise.
Okay.
If we take your baby example, let us say, did those two make a decision as to why they want to give birth? So that's just a question. We don't have to answer it. Did the baby's well being and did the baby's first choice life come into why the baby was born? Was the baby born just out of casual sex? Was the baby planned? It doesn't matter any of those things because it might be somebody who is living a second choice self who gave birth. It might be a first choice self person who gave birth. You see, the dynamics would be very, very different. And then we realize, oh, but wait, I don't need to compromise if both of us decided that from a first choice self that we want to bring somebody else into life, onto earth, for their experience. So remember, the baby is then born for the baby's sake. And we want to bring our meaning to the baby. Therefore, what would it matter who gets up to go and whatever the baby is needing at the time? Why does it matter? I don't need the acceptance of my partner, so there's no need to compromise. It might be just from a practical point, the one person is getting up at 4 o'clock to, let's say, if I take my own life, if I use my life as an example, I'm not taking my own life. If I use my life as an example, I got up many mornings at 4:45 to get up, to travel to work, etc., to be back home early so that I could build more building blocks of peace evolution. Just by example, my partner is maybe not working for whatever reason, or my partner might much get up much later for whatever reason. So could we maybe from a practical point solve it by both parties bringing their meaning to the solution?
Okay.
Is
Thank
that
you for that.
is that interesting or not?
Very interesting. Thank you for
Okay,
answering that, Emmanuel.
righty.
Okay, let's have a look at our agenda.
Linda, so what I would like to cover now, I want to make a suggestion. I really don't want to rush. This is an important topic. I suspected that it was going to take more time than what we set out usually. And
Yes.
for practical reasons, I'm thinking the following. How about if we go for max another half an hour or 20 minutes? We decide right now here,
Mm,
and then what we say is this was part one, and then we make a part two to give full justice to this topic. What are your thoughts about that?
I absolutely agree 100%. Let's do that.
Okay. So, what I would then like to suggest, how about just put up, while both of us are on screen, please just add the agenda. Why don't we straight away now go into point six and then point seven, and then as a part two, we go into the next topics?
100%.
Okay, righty. Let me start then on point. So, thank you, Linda. So, the topic that we are discussing is why your relationship with yourself sets the tone for your entire life. And it's evident in what we've been saying so far. It encompasses your entire life. If my relationship with myself is not healthy, I could not have a healthy relationship with another person, even with myself, with money, with my health. It's not possible. So now what I'd like to do is jump straight to point six. There, the peace evolution's recipe. So let's look at point number six. The first point that I would like to cover now on point number six is base your relationship on liking what. So please keep in mind now, I interrupted myself. We are looking at relationships. We said in no uncertain terms up to now, none of our relationships could work if our relationship with ourselves is not healthy. Now we are looking at, well, how do we get the relationship to ourselves to be healthy? So let's look at the peace evolution recipe. The first thing we say there is base your relation, base your relationships on liking what you do. You've got to first understand the notion of liking what I do. It's not the same as doing what I want. It's liking what I do. So that's where it starts. The next thing that we say is, how do you recognize liking what you do? As you see there at the bottom, how do you recognize liking what you do? And the next point is it starts with recognizing your uniqueness. Each of our lives are unique to us as our fingerprint. We live the life that is based on liking what we do, and we recognize our uniqueness. The next step is we could not go further if we do not recognize our purpose. So my journey started with questioning. My life felt as if it didn't have meaning. After looking at many things, I concluded, after I discovered it, and one of my strengths and talents and temperament is that I never look at treating symptoms, I look at addressing the root cause. Now, once I address the root cause, lo and behold, out of my daydreams, I was able to then see, oh, this is my purpose. Once I recognized my purpose, if we take it a step further, I also recognized that in my case, I'm the source of my life, and I'm saying here, you recognize you are the source of your life. We made a video like that. You are the source of your life, as it says there. And these videos that we mentioned, the links are in the description. So I recognize that I'm the source of my life. The next thing is I then, what's necessary then is you craft your vision. So what I did was I recognized my purpose. I saw the daydreams that revealed to me my purpose. And consequent to that, I then wrote, I crafted a vision based on how I saw that unfolding. Then the next point there is you live your unique life. You then live a life unique to you as your fingerprint. And I would like to just come back to this. You are not living primarily to make money. You are living to like what you do, doing the things you like doing. Consequent to that, you also make money to pay the bills, but you are not chasing making money. And then you realize, as we said right there in the beginning, we feel something is missing because you are then present in your life, wholeheartedly present in your life. Nothing feels missing in your life. You stop yearning for a different life. I found myself asking the question about what is my meaning? I also felt that I yearned for a different life continuously. I also felt something was missing. Once I recognized my purpose, etc., as I was saying a few steps earlier, I then realized, okay, but the yearning for a different life is not there anymore. I then also realized you live a life of meaning. Look at this one. You balance your relationships and liking what you do. You balance your relationships and liking what you do. Now, that relationship starts with me and unfolds into liking what I do. And all my other relationships fall into place because my relationship with myself is healthy. Look at this tongue twister. You recognize the relationship with yourself sets the tone for your life. Your relationship, first of all, with yourself, this is beautiful, with everyone and with everything. I'm not even going to ruin nature. None whatsoever. Absolutely none whatsoever. So it's my relationship with myself, with everyone, and everything. That everything is hugely important. Linda, so that was the peace evolution recipe, slowly, step by step by step. I rushed through it.
I would just like to share with our viewers that this recipe, you could apply it to every single aspect of your life. And now today we're specifically talking about relationships. So perhaps you are yearning for a different relationship. Perhaps there is something missing in your relationship. So the recipe will assist you and guide you to recognize that you are the source of your life. And then you would recognize that when you start living your meaning, nothing is going to feel missing. You're not going to feel that your partner needs to fill a void, which is, by the way, a figment of your imagination. And you are going to live your life with meaning. This is very exciting. And again, I want to mention that we at Peace Evolution say this very big statement of 99 to 100% of people only treat symptoms. So, what we are sharing with you today here is this opportunity to come and recognize yourself in a very unique way and then recognize that uniqueness. Isn't that exciting? Anyways, I'm so passionate about this. So let me stop myself there. Okay, Emmanuel, let's move on to the next point.
Thank you, Linda. So the next point there is, how do you recognize your purpose? So on point number 6, we spoke about what's necessary and we describe and we outline it as Peace Evolution's recipe. Now we are going to look at, well, how do you do this? So we set the scene by saying these are the things happening around relationships. We then said what you are able to do with it, about it. Now we are going to show you exact steps of how do you recognize your purpose. Let's look at that. Is this exciting or what? So here at Peace Evolution, we of course have this YouTube channel and we've got material content and we continuously create content. And you follow Peace Evolution's YouTube channel, all the content that we create and created and to create, would be creating, covers this topic, the single topic, and coming at it from different ways. There is also a playlist. So let's look at that. You follow Peace Evolution, recognize your purpose related playlist. So we started putting together a playlist where it covers those exact videos that relate to recognizing your purpose. The playlist is in the description. Then also we have an ebook, and the name of the ebook is Life Can Be Different Conception. So this is the birth of this notion of I've got a second choice life, and then I'm able to make the step change. And that is what we refer to as conception. So the conception of you being able to transition in a single step to your first choice life. And there is the ebook, and the link is in the description. Then on YouTube, we've got what we call the First Choice Life membership, and we've got 4 levels, and those 4 levels take you all the way from recognizing your purpose to balance making money with liking what you do. So we take you step by step through those 4 levels where you are able to, if you join the membership, we take you through that step by step. Then you recognize, as I said earlier, nothing is missing. You stop yearning for a different life. You live a life of meaning. You recognize, look at this one, you recognize your relationship with yourself works, and consequent also your relationship with everything, everyone also works. And so you evolve inner peace. And that's where it ends today, part one.
Thank you so much for that, Emmanuel. Sure. It's been a really, really interesting, fascinating, and intriguing topic to talk about. Absolutely love that. And thank you for sharing. And yes, look out for part two coming soon. Okay, keep well.
Thank you. And